The first step is realizing that you are absolutely positively, without a doubt, worth more than your current salary, and that with the right approach, you can confidently ask for what you deserve to be earning.
Welcome to The PA is In, the show created by PAs for PAs, where codependency with your supervising physician is a thing of the past, optimal team practice is the future, and physician associate has taken the place of physician assistant as the professional title of choice. I'm Tracy Bingaman, and I'm obsessed with redefining what success as a PA looks like and what it feels like. Here you'll find the mindset shifts, systems, and processes I use to escape healthcare burnout and integrate my work into my life. Work-life balance is a myth, and an integrated life where you thrive professionally, not a balancing act, is the goal here. My mission is to help you to grow into a unicorn PA who loves their job, has abundant energy, time to spare, and work-optional financial freedom. The PA is in.
Welcome back to another episode of The PA is In, your place for confidence, integration, and peace as a part of your career as a physician associate. I am Tracy Bingaman, your host, guide, and clinician career and negotiation coach. If you're anything like me, there is nothing you love more than being appreciated for the work and the contributions that you make. You know you're making a difference in the care that you're providing, but when a patient takes time to say thank you, or your admin team, colleagues, or nursing staff calls you out for going that extra mile, you get that extra excitement from the validation. But maybe you've caught yourself wondering, could I actually be earning more money though? The good news is that you are absolutely contributing value above and beyond your current salary and compensation. You don't need to have an MBA to make the case for earning more money. What do you need? A simple step-by-step plan. And if you're in a rush or you're a visual learner or you want to have something in your hands while you listen to or watch this episode, download the free Clinician Negotiation Roadmap at tracybingaman.com/roadmap or follow the link in the show notes. Let's dive into 3 quick steps to get you from dreaming about a raise to taking steps towards landing one. I was so excited to hear that AAPA has upgraded their signature job board, PA Job Source, into an interactive, map-based system that allows you to literally zoom into your targeted geographic region and communicate directly with PA employers. The PA Job Source map connects you to the entire landscape of PA jobs. They've got 50,000 PA employers and counting. You can follow a geographic market or employer site and receive alerts when new jobs are posted. You can even send a DM to that employer you've had your eye on for months. But here's the best news. PA Job Source is still completely free to AAPA members. Log in today to map out your future at aapa.org/PAJobSource. Step 1 is to set your goal. Raises don't simply fall in your lap. This is such an interesting part of being a PA. So, in my experience, docs and support staff seem to be valued higher. I'm sort of hesitant to say higher. I want to say differently, or they have a process for regular raises. This year in my practice, we had some turnover of our MA and nursing staff. And as a part of hiring a new medical assistant for our department, I was speaking with our upper level management and honestly helping to advocate on behalf of the starting hourly rate for our MA. So I was saying, hey, I think this person has experience. They should be making a little bit more. And I was interested to hear that our MAs get raises after 6 months at our office. And then every year, once they are on this cycle of like an anniversary, they get a raise. That stepwise increase happens as long as they're meeting minimum performance standards. So unlike for providers like PAs or NPs, where we have to sort of go above and beyond, prove this value that we're adding, it was just standard, like stepwise raise of their hourly rate as they go. So interestingly, most organizations have some tiered compensation based on years of service or experience. They have something like pay bands that increase over time for people like physicians, nurses, executives, support staff. And I don't know, PAs fall in this gray area where we often miss the boat on those. I think this is probably because when we first started, they didn't really know where to put us, right? So we weren't physicians, but we weren't nurses. And so we ended up on this different track in terms of our compensation. But let me tell you, waiting around for someone to say, hey, I think you're doing a great job. Here's more money is not an effective strategy for increasing your income over time. As they say, hope is not a strategy. So, having a specific goal of compensation, schedule, or template is key. So, whatever it is that you're looking to get out of this next negotiation, if you are looking for a raise in the next year, what are you trying to accomplish in terms of exactly how much money? So, yes, everyone wants to make more money, but the first step to take if you'd like to be earning more is to determine your exact compensation goal. What would you like to earn? What is the very best case scenario from a pay standpoint at the outcome of these discussions that you're having? Think outside the box here in terms of compensation models. So many APPs are now being paid on production or with a bonus that's based on revenue generated, RVUs, or number of patients seen. I would say few APPs are being paid on productivity only, and most are paid on a base plus bonus model. So this is something that we've seen change in the last couple of years where people are going from base only to base plus bonus, where if you meet certain metrics, if you're seeing certain volumes, that you're getting some at-risk compensation in addition to your base salary. When it comes to asking for more, sitting down to negotiate and making sure you're getting what you want, you have to have a clear goal in mind. This is key because if you get in these discussions and you don't know exactly what you want to be making, you're going to end up with less than you could have or less than you really wanted because you either weren't honest with yourself about what you wanted to be making or it wasn't clear. And then that came through in those discussions. So the first step is to determine how and what you want to earn. Do you want to get a bonus monthly, quarterly, at the end of the year? Does it want to be based on your performance, your hours, specific accomplishments, or achievements? Do you want to increase your base salary compensation regardless of productivity? Your specific compensation goal will help you to determine your approach to negotiations, what you have to bring to the table in terms of proof of the value that you're adding or the productivity that you're already seeing. This goal that you're going to set is unique and personalized to you and your practice setting. Let your goals be specific. Think about what you're earning, think about the years since you've had an increase, think about the value that you add to that practice, and come up with a number which honestly might startle you a little bit. Oftentimes in negotiation consultations, when I'm talking to my clients, I will say a number and they will say, like, whoa, that feels like way more than I thought I could ask for and more than I thought that I could come to terms with in terms of the value that you're adding to the practice. So, step one, if you want to be making more money in the next year, is to set a specific salary goal. Step two is to plan your approach. Now that you've got your goal locked in and ready to go, it's time to make a plan relative to the logistics of landing your raise. Conversations need to happen. Now, before you get all sweaty palmed, nervous, and panicked, I want to remind you that you have hard conversations all the time. Whether it's with your patients, kids, spouses, or friends, hard conversations are a part of life. But being a provider means that you are already exceptional and practiced at communicating. Having these conversations about changing your compensation is just that. It's another form of communication. You practice these interactions every day in hospitals and clinics with teachers, coaches, and even your in laws. As a part of your plan, you've already covered the what you're going to ask for, and now you need to nail down the who and the how of asking for and landing that increase in compensation. The who is who you need to talk to get a yes from. So think about your practice group or organizational structure. So when it comes to asking for a raise, it's important to know who you actually need to speak with. In my experience, sometimes this is incredibly clear. Sometimes it's unclear. Oftentimes, the person who you report to in terms of a clinical leader or maybe your office admin person is the person who's most readily available to you, but not the person who makes the decisions relative to compensation. So I want you to start by identifying the key decision maker in your organization. So this could be your direct supervisor, but it could also be someone like a department head, the chief of your department, an HR representative, or even someone higher up in leadership, a regional director, someone who is in charge of your service line, someone who is in charge of the APPs for the network. This is going to depend and vary widely depending on the structure of your workplace. If you are unsure and you're thinking, I have no idea who this person is, Take some time to ask around or do a little research to find out who has the authority to do things like approve raises. Now, sometimes this is multiple conversations where you have to talk to the person who you directly report to in order to figure out and get a meeting with the person that they report to. If at all possible, ask to be a part of those conversations. Because historically, if you say to your office manager who feels a certain way about you that you'd like to be earning more and you'd like to meet and you'd like to have this conversation with the person they report to, it's going to go differently than if they have that conversation on your behalf. I wouldn't say that's always true. If you have someone who champions you and really goes to the mat for you, it's probably okay for them to have the conversation without you. But if at all possible, you can be involved in this conversation. We'll give you more information. It will seem to them like you're more of an invested party in this discussion, that you're not having someone else have that conversation on your behalf. If this person is your manager, you want to also make sure that they are the one who has the power to make the decision or has the appropriate connections to talk to HR or the other sort of upline decision makers, so that you're not spinning your wheels and talking to someone who can't ultimately help and or doesn't have an audience or a connection to the person who can actually do this. So, who do you need to speak to in order to get the ball rolling? What conversations do you need to have? Is there more than one person that you need to get on board with this? Yes. So oftentimes, as I said, there's a clinical leader, but then there's the admin team, there's the, director of the department, there's the person who is the service line manager. All of those things should be people that you're sort of thinking like, do I need a yes from them? What does this look like? If you have a close colleague or someone who is recently hired or someone who negotiated for a raise, you could ask them, hey, who did you talk to when you adjusted this? Who did you talk to? Because sometimes it's people that don't work in your building or that you don't see on a day-to-day basis, except for maybe like a monthly or quarterly meeting. Sometimes it's someone that you don't even know at all. And that presents a unique challenge in terms of talking to someone who isn't exposed to you on a daily basis and saying, hey, I had value in these ways and I'd like to make more. But so who needs to give you that yes in order for this to actually get implemented and become a part of the change? And here is like a sidebar on this conversation of who. Um, is there someone in your organization who is in a position of leadership or influence who can champion you along this quest to earn more money? If you have a physician colleague who is a leader, if you have someone who has been there a long time and is well respected and has the ear of the decision makers who can champion you along this quest, it's not that you don't do anything and ask them to advocate for you, but that you say, hey, I'm going to ask this. If someone speaks to you, if you can get this person in your corner, it can be really helpful. I would love to tell you that getting a raise is not at all political in terms of office politics, but in some ways it is. So if you have, a positive relationship with someone who is in a position of leadership or influence, it's okay. It may even be necessary to talk to that person and ask them to go to the mat for you in terms of this discussion. So once you've identified the right person, so you know what you're going to ask for, you know who you're going to ask, then it's time to say, how am I going to go about this? So it's time to prepare what you're actually going to say. You don't just walk in and ask for more money. And our first instinct when it comes to this is to say things like, I've been here a long time. I've never had a raise. So and so was just hired and they're making almost what I'm making. They're a new graduate. I have so much more experience than them. All of which may be true, but all of which are subjective in terms of how I feel about the situation. Instead, so that's like, if you're thinking of a SOAP note, that's all the stuff that would go in the S. I want you to think about the O. So the objective things that you can use to articulate your worth. So start by clearly articulating the value that you bring to the team, specific accomplishments, projects, responsibilities, extra patients that you've been seeing, things that you've taken over since the last time that you had a conversation or your compensation was evaluated. Any specific ways that you've contributed to your organization's success, positive patient feedback, increasing patient access or decreasing the time that patients are waiting for surgery consults, or whatever it is that you do, think about the objective ways that you add value. This is not a conversation that we want to base in feeling, but rather that we want to come in with facts to bring to the table to show the value that you are adding. Be ready to share things like numbers. So if you are one of the most productive people, or you see more patients on an average day than anyone else in your office, be ready to share those numbers and show how you've contributed to improving patient access or improving patient outcomes or making it so your Press Ganey scores have gone up. So what are some things that you can identify that are different now or different with you or your patient population, or things that have changed in the group or practice or organization since you got there? So the one thing that I've learned about working in medicine is that nothing stays the same. So since you got this job, whether it's been 1 year or 10 years, things have changed. The demands of the department has changed. People have had to shift. Your template has shifted because someone went on leave, or you got a different doc, or something changed, or your health network bought a hospital. So highlight those things and say how what you're doing now is different, is more, is harder, adds more value, that you're seeing more complex patients. Whatever it is that makes you say those subjective thoughts, like, I feel like I deserve to be earning more. What is the data to back up those feelings? What is the objective section of this note in terms of if you are writing a note summarizing your position and the value that you add? So, in this conversation, you want to be confident and prepared and very clear about both what you're asking for, um, and also how you add objective value to the situation. I am okay with this conversation and you wanting to earn more and you knowing that you add value. I'm okay with the motivation to be emotional. Oftentimes, that resentment, that like brink of burnout does bring people to say, like, hey, I deserve to earn more. I'm doing so much more. So I am here for that emotion as a motivating factor, but that emotion is not going to be an effective way to get the other people to see how you deserve to be compensated more, because they have a budget to balance and they have a profit and loss and they have need to make your department profitable. So as you're thinking about this, think less about the emotions of why you think you deserve a raise and talk about the objective criteria.
Dreading one more shift, one more day, seeing one more patient? What if that dread isn't simply anxiety and fear, but rather the bubbling up of underlying resentment that you are underpaid, disrespected, marginalized, overwhelmed, and your schedule, quite frankly, sucks? I'm a clinician negotiation coach, and I help providers like you to land the biggest raises of their career. It's super simple. Here's how it works. You book your 1 hour call in which we discuss your current compensation, what your specific goals are, and create a personalized plan. You'll hang out with a strategic plan for how to land a bigger paycheck, a better schedule, and blocked admin time. Life is too short to constantly feel that resentment, to be insulted by your pay, and to continue to have that crappy schedule. A negotiation consultation will help you to understand your value, feel confident about the conversations you need to have, and have the gumption to finally earn what you are worth. I have dedicated slots on my calendar for negotiation calls each week. Would you like one of those calls to be yours? The link in the show notes is the fastest way to get that booked.
Step 3, set your timeline. You now know what you're going to ask for in terms of compensation, who you need on your side, who is championing you in this race, who needs to say yes, and how you're going to ask in terms of using some of that data as proof. But if you want a raise in the next year, you need to set a timeline. When are you going to ask? When are you going to start having these conversations? Know that this is not a once and done meeting, that this is a conversation and a follow up discussion and a follow up meeting with someone else and further discussions, and that it takes time and energy and effort to get to where you want to go, to get the appropriate people to do the appropriate things to land you this raise. So, when are you going to ask? Are there specific deadlines or milestones that you'd like to take into account? Maybe something like a work anniversary, the end of a fiscal year at your employer, another milestone in terms of years that you have been somewhere or been doing a specific job. Here's the thing about having a plan and negotiating for a raise: it doesn't happen unless you create the plan and then execute the plan. Just like you don't get the raise if they say yes, but you don't have a plan for implementation, or you don't have a significant deadline of when this is going to be implemented. Have you ever done that where you've had a conversation with someone and they have said yes, and then nothing has ever happened because there wasn't a plan for implementation and there wasn't a specific deadline? When are you going to have this conversation? When are you going to have the approach planned by? When are you going to have the amount that you want to be earning set? When are these conversations going to happen? A pro tip is to never leave one of these conversations without a clear understanding of when you're going to follow up. So you're talking to your direct supervisor, you've brought these facts, you've discussed why you think you are worth more and what you need to be earning in order for this job to continue working for you financially, logistically. And then they say, okay, I'm going to talk to so and so and I'll get back to you. What you need to say is, when can I expect to hear from you? Can we meet next week? Can we meet next month? Let's put something on the schedule. Block my schedule and put it in your Outlook so that we know we're talking in 2 weeks. Because that means that they can't kick the can down the road. Because if you have a meeting in 2 weeks, then they need to talk to that person. Otherwise, you go to that meeting and then they look like they haven't done anything, which haven't they or have they? It gives you something to keep the process moving forward with that forward momentum. Do you need to request a meeting with people? Do you need to block your clinic? Do you need to plan to come in early or stay late or meet over lunch on a day when your patients are not going to run over? Do you need to block a specific time schedule? You could have this conversation in the evening. You could have it when you don't normally see patients. So, when you set yourself a timeline, make it a point to start in terms of picking some of these things, which you can do as early as today, having a plan for who you're going to talk to and how you're going to talk to them, and then implementing the plan by that timing. So if you want to be bringing home more money in 6 months, you need to start researching, gathering data, figuring out who you need to talk to, prepping for that conversation, and doing your planning now. I want you to take a minute to hold yourself accountable and write down a date. Send an email, request a meeting, text an accountability partner or a friend that you're going to do something to actually make yourself earn more money in the coming months. Now, that step may be getting some help. So, we feel fairly uncomfortable talking about salary and compensation with people in general because we live in a society where that's just not happening. I think salary transparency is great if it's done in a way that is reasonable and with someone that you trust. You don't even necessarily need to tell people what you're making, but if there's other people in your practice in a similar situation, you can band together, you can talk to them, you can seek the help of an expert consultant. Spoiler alert, that is me. I do offer negotiation consults. It's always linked in the show notes. I have spots on my calendar every single week for clinicians to sign up for and do a consultation where we'll hop on a call. We'll talk about exactly your situation. We will figure out who you need to talk to. We will talk about the specific approach, the data, the how to ask for what you want to earn. So head to the link in the show notes for a negotiation consult. And if you are a DIYer, do go to the show notes and download that Clinician Negotiation Roadmap. It is tracybigman.com/roadmap. You can download it. It walks through some of specific strategies and is also going to help you outline some of these specific steps and things you need to take. Because if this is something you've been thinking about for months or years, it just makes you feel more resentful to be thinking about it, to know that you're worth more, and to not be taking the steps that you know you need to take in order to earn more and be paid what you deserve. Negotiating for a raise can feel intimidating, but by setting clear goals, creating a plan, and using specific strategies, you can take control of your compensation. The first step is realizing that you are absolutely positively, without a doubt, worth more than your current salary, and that with the right approach, you can confidently ask for what you deserve to be earning. Remember, setting a specific compensation goal is crucial. Whether you're aiming for a base salary increase, bonuses tied to productivity, you want to switch to hourly pay because you're constantly charting at home, you need additional benefits or an adjusted schedule, having a clear target allows you to be precise and very clear in what you're asking for. Once you've identified what you want, start planning how you'll approach that conversation. Know who you need to talk to. Use your network to find a champion who can support your case inside of your organization. When it comes to the actual negotiation itself, the way that you communicate matters. Instead of coming in guns a-blazing, making demands, you can use certain strategies to help foster a collaborative environment where you're saying, hey, I've identified a problem. The problem is that I'm not paid enough, and I'm offering a solution for me to be paid more based on X, Y, or Z. These strategies encourage the other person you're talking to engage in problem solving rather than feeling defensive if you come in saying, I need to earn more money or else. It shifts the conversation from you being someone who's confronting them and saying, like, you don't pay me enough, pay me more, to collaboration. And it helps you to open that door to better outcomes for both sides. So it feels like you guys are both solving a problem that you have identified, as opposed to you walking in with your hand out. I've been here for 3 years. I do more than anyone else, and I deserve to make more. Last but certainly not least, don't forget to set a timeline. Having a plan is essential, but it won't come to life and it won't actually happen if you don't set yourself a deadline. I know that you are incredibly busy, and this is something that you've been thinking about but haven't quite done. Set specific dates for when you'll have conversations. Set aside time for when you're going to research and gather that data, and schedule the meetings. And while you're at it, consider booking a negotiation consultation. Holding yourself accountable by sticking to this timeline is what will move you from planning and wishing and feeling resentful to doing and executing and landing that raise. As always, I'm here encouraging you to take action, to be confident, and know that you are worth every single penny that you're asking for, and probably even more. For more guidance, download the Negotiation Roadmap at tracybingaman.com/roadmap or through the link in the show notes. I'd love to hop on a call if you book a negotiation consult. I'd be happy to help you put together a specific plan so you can rock that next negotiation, land your raise, and implement these 3 steps in a way that is specific to you and your situation. The link to book your negotiation consult is always in the show notes. That's all for today. This PA is out.
Congratulations, you've just joined an awesome club. By listening to a full episode of The PA is In, you are officially on the Unicorn PA team. Welcome aboard. What most team members do is they subscribe to the podcast because that allows them to automatically get the latest episode of the show. The life of your dreams exists on the other side of taking action. Keep making small shifts and keep getting better. Your life will improve, your career will soar, and you will have the confidence you need to create your own success. I will see you in the next episode. This PA is out.